Chapter 7. Laney pressed her face to the window as the car pulled into the compound. A massive house loomed in front of them. "Is that where we're staying?" Marianne laughed as she drove past the house. "No, that is for the women, but it's not as big as it looks. I mean, it is, but the women have to share bedrooms and bathrooms. Our accommodations are a little smaller, but we have our own rooms and bathrooms, and the studio pays for the food. I'm sure they'll be fine. My apartment in New York was tiny. It could have fit in your old living room." Marianne glanced her direction. "How did you live in such a small place?" Laney chuckled. Marianne had always been a little naive, and evidently she had not outgrown it. "It was New York, Marianne. Everything is small and expensive. Unless you're a billionaire, then it's just large and expensive." "Well, then, this might feel like a vacation house after all." She pulled up in front of a row of bungalow-type houses surrounding a larger house in the middle. "Our houses are the smaller bungalows. The middle house is for the cowboy, but we also have a meeting room and viewing room in the main house, as well as access to the kitchen and our own dining room." "Wow, this is an impressive setup. Does the studio own all this?" "Yeah, they film here 9 months out of the year, so it made sense to just buy it. Our show isn't the only one who uses it." She parked the car in front of the main house. "Come on inside. I'll show you your room and then introduce you to everyone." Laney grabbed her suitcases from the trunk of the car. Marianne had insisted she didn't need much, as they had a laundry on site and Laney would have time to drive into town to get whatever else she might need. But Laney didn't feel comfortable going somewhere for more than a month without enough clothes. Not knowing what exactly she was getting into, she'd packed for every occasion and barely gotten her suitcase closed. Her second suitcase contained only her makeup supplies. "Let's drop your supplies off first." Marianne led the way to the right of the main building, stopping at the second bungalow. "I'm in number 1, and our cook Ronaldo is in number 3. She pulled a ring of keys from her pocket and unlocked the door before handing the key to Laney. The door opened to a small but spacious living room, which held a couch, a chair, and a small table. "No television?" Laney asked as she looked around the room. "No, we're not supposed to watch anything except what plays in the group space, but believe me, that is entertaining, as it's a live feed of the women. There are cameras all over the place in this compound, so be careful what you do. Oh, that reminds me. I'll have to take your phone, too." Laney's mouth dropped open. "My phone? But it has all my books on it." "Don't worry," Marianne said with a smile. "You can use it in the common space, just not in your bungalow. It's part of the contract you'll have to sign. They don't want any leaking of the show. I guess there are a few things you forgot to mention when you told me about this gig." Laney feigned an angry look. She didn't mind, really. Her phone had always been glued to her side when she worked for Madame Bonovich. The woman could, and often had, called at all times of the night. Laney was rather looking forward to a detox from her phone. Marianne's bottom lip folded under her teeth in a contrite expression. She looked like a kid who'd gotten caught with her hand in the cookie jar. "I know, and I'm sorry, but I needed you to take the job. I promise I'll make it up to you." "You bet you will." Laney laughed to let her friend know she was teasing. She continued toward the back of the room, where it opened to a small hallway with 2 doors. One held a bathroom and the other a bedroom. Simple, just a bed, nightstand, dresser, and closet. But it would do, and even though it wasn't large, it was bigger than her apartment had been. After hoisting her suitcase on the bed to unpack later, she followed Marianne out of the bungalow and toward the main house. "We always enter from back here where the kitchen is. There's a separate dining room for us back here and one for the cowboy up front. Our goal is to stay out of his sight as much as possible. Of course, you'll have to be around him more than the rest of us, but that's unavoidable. Still, as you'll find out in a minute, it's get in, do his makeup, and get out. As little interaction as possible." "Got it. Is there a reason?" Marianne opened the back door and motioned Laney inside. A spacious kitchen lay before them, but Laney hardly had time to take it all in before Marianne was moving again. "He's supposed to be focusing on the women to find a wife?" She glanced around and then leaned closer to Laney. "They hardly ever last, but the producers like to think they will if the contestants focus enough. So we give them as much space as we can." The kitchen led out to a dining room that held a table for 8, but Marianne kept walking. "How many shows have there been?" Laney should have done more homework. She was all kinds of curious now. "This is our 10th season." Laney blinked. "Wow, 10 seasons? I had no idea. How many matches have lasted?" "Only 1, but that's hardly surprising since they only get to know each other a few weeks before the end of the show. They almost always end in a proposal, but there's only been 1 wedding." Laney's eyes widened. That's a terrible record. Why do people keep coming on the show? Marianne shrugged as she stopped in front of a closed door. A myriad of reasons, but mostly to get their 15 minutes of fame. Okay, this is the conference room. Peter, the director, and Justin, the host, are probably already inside. They'll give you the contract to sign. I'll answer any questions you have later, but don't bring up the success rate to them. Her mouth twitched, and she glanced around covertly. They're kind of touchy about it. Got it. Laney wondered just what she had gotten herself into. She thought it was simply a reality television show, but already it felt like a different world. Two men looked up at them as the door opened. One was older, probably in his late 50s or early 60s if the gray in his hair was any indication. The other looked younger, maybe mid-30s, but it was hard to tell. He had to be the host, though, as he looked like what Laney imagined a Ken doll would if one came to life. Blonde hair that laid in a perfect wave on his head, a pronounced cleft in his chin, and a smile that shifted between plastic and predatory. Peter, Justin, this is Laney, the makeup artist I told you about. Justin's eyes roamed over her briefly and then shifted away. Perhaps she didn't meet his standard of approval, but that was fine with her, as he appeared narcissistic and closed off. Peter, however, stood and extended a hand. Laney, it's a pleasure to meet you, and I can't thank you enough for coming on such short notice. I thought our normal girl would make it through filming, but she had complications with her pregnancy and the doctors forced her to start maternity leave early. I hope she's okay. A surge of concern flooded Laney, though she didn't know this woman and would probably never meet her. Peter waved a hand. She's fine, but she's having twins, and I guess her amniotic fluid was low. I'm not even sure what that means, but she's on bed rest, so here we are. While low amniotic fluid held some risks, Laney was glad to hear it was something relatively minor. I'm glad to hear she'll be okay, and happy I could help. Good. Take a seat, and I'll fill you in on the basic contract. Marianne can answer any other questions you have. So, first and foremost, you can't discuss the show and how it's going. Obviously, we don't film live, and we don't want details getting leaked. You'll have a locker in the viewing area where you can leave your phone and computer if you have one. There's no Wi-Fi in the house anyway, but we monitor all your online activity. If you leak information, it is grounds for termination. Laney tried hard not to focus on the word termination. She'd been fired from one job this month. She had no desire to lose another. Understood. You are responsible for his makeup and attire every day he goes on a date. Not that you must dress him, but you need to make sure what he is wearing will work well on the HD cameras, and if not, then help him pick something that will. You will probably need to go on most dates in case he needs a touch-up, but you can either wait in the car or sit with Marianne. However, because you'll have such a bird's-eye view of everything, it is important that you don't influence his decision. Right. I think I can handle that. Good. Then you just need to sign here. He slid a single sheet of paper her direction. Laney scanned it. She had learned never to sign anything without reading it. But the contract covered just what he'd gone over. She didn't see any surprises in it, so she took the proffered pen and signed her name to the bottom. Welcome to the family, Peter said, and extended his hand one more time.